Good morning. How the devil are you doing this Sunday? Hope you're all fit and well. I had a message from Dan Cullen, who reckons the show is still not showing. I can tell he's actually watching over on YouTube. I'm looking at it on YouTube, and I can tell you it is most definitely there. Are you looking at yesterday's feed, possibly? Let us know. Mark Whiting's here as well. Mark was actually first off the mark officially. I know Dan was here a little bit before that, but he was here officially. Dan Cullen saying happy hump day to all you filthy animals. Yeah, happy hump day. Happy St. George's Day as well to all my fellow English men and women. I realise St. George's Day has been kind of usurped over the years. It's become a bit of a, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say racist. Racist is the wrong word, but it's become a bit xenophobic. But happy St. George's Day to all of those that do still celebrate. Chris Ford says, good morning. Happy shiny people. May your rams never go rusty. Too late for me, I'm afraid. On the lookout for some replacement rams. None of mine are working. I've already mentioned the fact that it's Hump Day. Steve Williamson just joined us. Morning, Steve. Good of you to be here. I've already mentioned the fact that it is Hump Day. It's Wednesday. I can tell you that it is St. George's Day. Not that will matter too much to Steve because, it is what it is. Well, I'll come back to this because there we are. Gary Muirhead says, good morning, everyone. Happy 20th birthday to YouTube. Without it, we wouldn't be watching this award-winning show. I think he's stretching things slightly with award-winning, but yeah, without YouTube, you probably wouldn't be watching this show. I mean, obviously, we're broadcasting elsewhere, but yeah, absolutely right. So, 2005, I think I posted my first video on YouTube around about 2006, so I wasn't exactly quick to the party, but I wasn't far behind. Ken Hatcher has just joined us. Morning, Ken. Obviously, happy birthday to YouTube, but also happy 78th birthday, actually, to Mr. Jim Osterberg. Jim Osterberg, I hear you say? Who the bloody hell is Jim Osterberg? Well, he is better known to the world as Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop is 78 years old today. You know these people that are going around trying to find the secret of eternal youth? Has anyone actually thought of running tests on Iggy Pop and Keith Richards? Because I mean, I realise I think Keith Richards is in his 80s. Iggy Pop is 78. Not only are they still going, but they're still rocking pretty hard, I would say. And I think they've crammed more into their life. Well, probably, I would imagine Keith Richards has probably lived about 7 lifetimes by now. Ken Hatcher saying, who's Iggy Pop? Oh, Ken. And there was me thinking you and I could be friends. Iggy Pop. How do I describe Iggy Pop? Iggy and the Stooges back in the 70s. Yeah, Iggy Pop and David Bowie basically lived together in Berlin, sort of feeding on each other's creativity for quite some time. But the song "I Am the Passenger" from Train Spotting? That's Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop. Ken, you need to get out more. Apparently Iggy Pop not big in Wales, but you need to get out more. Jim Turner's just joined us as well. Morning, Jim. Jim will know who Iggy Pop is, surely. Please tell me. Dan Cullen says, wonder about many others too. Yeah, AC/DC, yeah. Angus Young. Angus Young must be close on 80 years old. Still dresses like a schoolboy. Still plays a guitar better than just about anybody. Mick Jagger. My daughter saw Mick Jagger. Well, saw the Stones actually a couple of years ago. I think he just turned 80 at that point. 2-hour set. Didn't stop dancing the entire time. And there's me basically groaning as I get out of an armchair. He's got 20 plus years on me and he's way, way fitter than I am. And there's Dan saying good morning to Mr. Jim Turner. Just want to answer a question in public. I've been planning to meet up with Dan Cullen for quite some time. I owe him a few prizes. I can tell you that it's not this Saturday coming, it's the one after. My other half is going away for a week or thereabouts. So I will be at a loose end on a Saturday. So Dan, if you fancy, if you fancy meeting up in London somewhere, I can give you your prizes. We can have a chinwag and catch up, put the world to rights. Gary Muirhead says, I wonder how many TVs Keith moved throughout hotel room windows. Moon the Loon. Yeah, absolutely Moon the Loon. I met him a couple of times, but I was a child at the time. Didn't realise quite what I was passing by. Motorhead lives in my street. How is that possible? Hmm. How is that possible? I mean, the main person in Motorhead is Lemmy, who is no longer with us. Phil Taylor, the drummer, he's no longer with us. So, are you? Does Fast Eddie live down your road? I'm sorry, I just know a bit about Motorhead. Uh, um, Dan says, "Okay, yes, sounds good. Good. See if Mickey's available. Yeah, please do. And party at Mark's house, everyone. Steve, you know you're always welcome here. Quite a commute for you, but you're always welcome. Anyway, we've done all of the business. It's time. Without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Wednesday. It's Wednesday, 23rd of April. That's what it is. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. Just want to address this. Dan Cullen's only got 20 minutes today. I'll try and get through the Mystery Machine as quickly as I possibly can, then, Dan. In today's show, Lorini lifts the lid on the Setanta. Komatsu wheel loader efficiency in the US. We're dozing with John Deere. And in the latest installment for the Breakfast Show at Balmer, we're taking a spin around the stand of Senebogen. Steve was working just next door to Senebogen. He'll tell you how good it was. Plus, in my morning monologue today, when industry imitates politics. I kind of flagged up that I was going to be doing this today. On yesterday's show, I finally got round to finishing writing it. We'll get to all that. But before all that, we've got the small matter of today's Mystery Machine immediately after this. Yeah, it's Mystery Machine time. Somebody's just popped into the chat. Steve says, I love Senebogen. Absolutely. He goes as the Bastard Sons now. I think Phil Campbell. Not sure who that is. Having said that, Motorhead were around for about 50 years. I would imagine they've changed over the years. We'll come back to question of the day in just a moment, but here we are. There is the Mystery Machine I need you to identify. And I can tell you that I have changed the color. You can't see it there, but I have played around with the color to make it a bit less obvious. I'm looking, as always, for a make and a model. Just while I'll leave that up just a second. We've got this from Dan. I'm looking to get a go on a Senebogen. Who does Senebogen in the UK? It's Molson, I think. Have a word with Molson. Get yourself down there. Yes, while you're thinking about that, let me take that away. Alex Latham has just joined us. Morning, Alex. Good of you to be here. Hope you're fitting well. You were working weekends this week, if I remember rightly, delivering training on a Sunday, unless I'm completely barking mad. I'm sure I saw that somewhere. Jim Turner reckons that our Mystery Machine could be a Sunward skid steer. You have no idea just how far away you are. You really haven't. And Dan Cullen says, is it a cat loading shovel? It is not. We'll come back to that in just a moment, but I do need to remind you of today's question of the day, which looks like this. Yeah, our question of the day today comes once again from our ever reliable resident quizmaster, Mr. Gary Muirhead. His question is this: do you have a nickname for your other half? You know, your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your partner, significant other, your main squeeze. Yeah, you get the idea. My wife's maiden name was Nelson, and somewhere along the line, I got into the habit of calling her Elsie Nelson long before we were married. That then got shortened to Big Else, which was supposed to be ironic because she's only 4'11". She's not big at all. And that just got shortened to Else. I call her Else so much now that it actually feels it feels odd in my mouth when I say the word Ruth. And I have to remember when I'm introducing to people, this is my wife, Ruth. What about you? Have you got a nickname? Have you got a nickname for your other half? And more specifically, do you have a nickname that they're not aware of? That is there something you call them that you don't tell them about? What have we got? Dan Cullen, slushy bugger that he is. I call my other half my little pet or Honeybee. Oh, to be called Honeybee, eh? Let me go back to the Mystery Machine, which looks like that. What have we got? We've got Dan Cullen reckons it could be a Sunwald SL17W. It is not. It is not a Sunwald SL58. In fact, it is not a Sunwald at all of any description. Steve Williamson reckons it could be a Bell Road Grader. It is not a Bell Road Grader. It's not a grader. It's not a Bell. Let me show you a bit more. There you are. Let me just quickly remind you, I have played around with the color. Attractive though that color is, do not be fooled. That is not how it appears. That's not how it emerges from the womb. That is me playing around with the colors. I'm assuming this is in answer to the question of the day. It may be Steve, I don't know, cuddling up to me a little bit. He says, babes or sexy ass? You're not so bad yourself, mate. Not so bad yourself. Joe Brown Construction Company just joined us. Said good morning over on Instagram. Good morning to you, my friend. Good of you to be here. Question of the day. Chris Ford says, GG, grumpy granny. The rest are divorce material. Yeah, I've got a few of those as well that I keep up my sleeve. Keep the guesses coming in. I call my other half the fire stick because she's always 2 minutes behind everyone else. Well done. Well done. Right. Okay. It is time to crack on with the show. And we've got something a bit special in a second, immediately after this. you ever think maybe your timing is just ridiculously good? About 5 minutes before I was due to go live this morning, as you well know, I'm surrounded by hats of every shape and model. Yeah, loads of hats. And I thought, I haven't worn the camouflage one for quite some time. Lo and behold, into Instagram has just popped Alu Group, who have just said, great cap. I agree. Finish this side, American that side. I agree. Can anyone actually see the top of my head? Because it is camouflage and it might just blend into the background. But Alu Group, good morning to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Love your products. Love your screening buckets. Like your hats even more. Thank you for joining us. Right, okay, let's have a look. What have we got here? Go back to the Mystery Machine. We've got Alex Latham reckons it could be a JCB 435S Agri. It's not. Dan reckons it could be an L250H from Volvo. It's not. He also reckons it could be a Lugong 890H. It's not. Let me show you a bit more and then we'll play you this film that I've been promising you. There you are. And Dan is also going for a Lugong 856HE. It is not. It is not a Lugong of any description. Dan Cullen says the Liebherr cat from Bauma is one to keep with the Bauma 2025 on the side. Hang on a minute. Let me go full screen. That one, you mean? Yes. That is a keeper, that one. You're absolutely right. I'm looking for a place on my wall for that. Anyway, enough of all that stuff and nonsense. Let's get on with the show. Lorini, I think we're all fans of Lorini here. They've been promising to unveil their Setanta high-reach excavator for quite some time. They have done so. I've taken their video and I've put my own music to it, and it looks like this. I'm with Jim. Does look a great tool. Can't wait to see it tearing into some heavy graft. Yeah, you and me both. Right. Okay. Mystery machine. Mystery machine that looks like that. We have had guesses aplenty. Let me have a look. Jim Turner reckons it could be a TM420. It is not. Dan Cullen saying he's got a Balmer 2022 Liebherr cap, which I think he won on the show. Yes, I think he did. Dan is also going for the Liebherr 534. It's not. Alex Latham go for the Komatsu WA480. It's not. Chris Ford 972M from Caterpillar. It's not one of those either. Dan Cullen Shantway L58-B3. It's not. It's not a Shantway L55G. It's not a Shantway at all. I can tell you that for nothing. And there's a couple more guesses. There you are. There you are. No, not at all. Gary Muirhead says it would have been nice to have been able to see the launch in person, but seems he went for a soft launch instead. I suppose he's too busy with all the anniversary celebrations. Fantastic work. Yeah. In addition to that, and I've not confirmed this, and I will get back to you on this, Gary. There is going to be a study tour to a European Demolition Association study tour to Italy. Obviously, Italy, the home of many of the best demolition attachments in the world. They're actually doing I think it's best part of a week-long study tour to Italy. About June time, I think it is, and I'm fairly sure that Arini is kind of involved in that as well. It is moving around, and I think it ends in Venice with the EDA conference, which I'm hoping to attend. I'll keep you posted on that. Going back to the Mystery Machine, Dan Cullen reckons it could be an ONK 120. It's not. It's not that one either. It's not an ONK at all. Let me show you a smidgen more. There you are, a bit more cab. Does that help at all? Maybe, maybe not. We shall see. Keep the guesses coming. Nobody's even got the right make yet, so plenty of time for you to guess. We're going to be right back with some wheel loader action from Komatsu right after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, wheel loader action from America featuring Komatsu. There you are. That's the introduction. Have a look.
With the workforce challenges that we're having today, we really have to start looking at technology as a way of finding efficiency in an operation. When we look at pieces of equipment like the 485-11, it really brings a good blend of technology and efficiency to where we can kind of focus on the workforce challenges that we're having in other areas of the business. In the 3-month period that we've had the machine, we've really kind of found our groove with it and adjusted the operation around the speed and the size of the machine and found a lot of efficiencies with it. The safety features around the 485-11 were pretty noticeable from day one. With the rear object detection system, the pillarless cab significantly increased visibility for the operators. The customer experience with Komatsu and our local dealer, Lyle Machinery, has been fantastic. Whether it's getting support on the national level or on the local level, both Komatsu and Lyle Machinery have both been there for us. Finding impacts on the bottom line, whether it's in fuel efficiency or operator happiness, it seems like the overwhelming consensus here is just write the check.
Yeah, love us some Komatsu. More guesses on our Mystery Machine. What have we got? Dan Cullen reckons an LCMG 920. It's not. It's something much better known than that. Let me show you a bit more. That is a bit of bucket. Again, please do not be fooled by the colour. The colour is of my creation, not of the manufacturer. Chris Ford reckons it could be an XCMG 958. It is not a 958. It's not an XCMG. It's more common than that. Keep the guesses coming. We're going to be back in just a moment with a bit of X-tier dozer action from the fine folks at John Deere immediately after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Just had this from Gary. He says, I did mention to Marco, that's Larini, that if I was in his motherland of Italy, would it be possible to pop down and visit him and the factory? And he said, you're very welcome. Maybe go up in his helicopter. Now, that's what you call a warm welcome. I do find that with the Italians. Whenever we've been over to see the likes of Despe, you ask for an invite, they give you an invite, and they look after you extremely well when you get there. So, but Gary, stick with me. I'm on the case, I promise. Mystery Machine. There we are. That's what we've got so far. Dan Cullen reckons it could be a Devellon DL480. It is not. Let me show you a smidge more. There you are. Does that help at all? We shall see. We shall see. Yeah, we're going back. We've just been to America with Komatsu. We're going to America again, this time with John Deere dozers.
Been demoing this 850X dozer, and I really like the way it runs. When we first got it, I told them the first place that we needed to put it was down here mucking these ponds out, because it was the hardest thing that we have going on this project. Dozer wise, it hasn't let us down yet. The electric drive motor surprised me. It's really impressed me on the way that it pulls and the power that it has pushing. On a normal dozer like the 750 John Deeres we have, they have to fuel up every day, where on this one I could go 2 days on a tank of diesel because of the hybrid. I think it's a great finished dozer. Blade control on it is just phenomenal. I've been putting this dozer through everything that I can try. It's held up on its own. I really like it. I really do.
Yep, more guesses on our mystery machine, which looks like that. We've had Chris Ford reckons it could be a Doosan DL350. It's not. Dan going Komatsu WA480. He's also going Cat 966M. Neither of those. It's not a Devellon 420. It's not a Cat 950 GC. It's not a Cat. It's not a Devellon. It's not a Doosan. Process of elimination, I would say, is the way forward with this. I can show you a smidge more. There you are. Not entirely sure that's helpful, but keep the guesses coming. We're going back to Balmer in just a moment for our final film of the day. So you do need to pull your fingers out if you want to win today's mystery machine. Back after this. Just going to bring this back because I want to show you this. Chris Ford reckons it could be a Case 721F. It is not a Case 721F. It's not a Case at all. Jim Turner reckons it could be a Volvo. It's not a Volvo. So far we've had, and there's Dan Cullen saying a JCB 409. So far I think we've had mentions of Cat, of Case, of Volvo, of Komatsu, of Devellon, of Doosan, XCMG, O&K. It's none of those. There is a major brand out there that nobody has mentioned thus far. It belongs to them. Keep the guesses coming. We've already mentioned Senebogen once. I'm going to mention them again. I got to take a stroll around their stand early doors one morning during Balmer, and this is what I got to see. Welcome back to the Breakfast Show at Balmer. We've just finished up on the Devellon stand, and we're heading on over to something that we don't see anywhere near often enough. We're going over to Senebogen. Just to give you a sense of direction, Komatsu is over to my left there, Devellon is over behind me, but we're just coming round, going to do a quick left turn, and we're going to turn green. And there, in all its glory, and it keeps going, that's the Senebogen stand. We're going to have a quick look through. That's a 320 ton pulp material handler. Probably one of the tallest machines here. I think it's probably beaten by one of the K-Tech machines over on the Hitachi stand. I'm going to take a quick spin through here. I don't know the product line anywhere near as well as I probably should. 613 HSB is the first one up. The 850G, which is a hybrid. We've certainly seen this one before. Let me show you that going up. And then through to here. This is much more my cup of tea. Another MBI shear on display. I'll show you this from the other side. The 830E demolition rig. The thing I like about this one is the elevating cab and tilting cab that looks like that. That to me makes a whole lot of sense. Get the operator up so we can actually see what's going on. And there is the business end of the machine. Superb. Quickly spin around, come back a little bit. Centerbogan obviously active in the telescopic handler market, although they do things again very Centerbogan style with the elevating cab. And as you can see, Centerbogan digging cranes too. Don't know the first thing about cranes, but I can show it to you nonetheless. I was here 3 years ago, and the Centerbogan stand, I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to get in, but the Centerbogan stand is another of those monster stands that is decked out like a complete office suite. If I can get in, I'll show you very, very quickly how that looks. So over to the right here, we've got the merch store. They very kindly gave me a pair of sunglasses last time I was here, which was very decent of them. Not sure I'd want the Centerbogan bicycle, although the bag is quite nice. Through to hats. That green one's rather smart. And then spin around, and we're actually in the stand itself. As you can see, it's not all just office based. Here is a close-up of the cab. But if you go round to here, you can see the stand in all its glory. You'd probably get 500-600 people in here. And then upstairs is the office area. So that was Centerbogan. Let's go somewhere else. I can tell you, sorry, just distracted by something over on Instagram, which I'm not going to respond to. Was Case at Balmer? They were, Gary. They were. I'm not doing these in any order, but I will try and dig out the Case one. I'll be completely upfront about it. I went to see Case once, did a film of it, and then when I got back to our apartment that evening, I'd received a press release from Case which explained one of the things that I'd seen, and it had completely passed me by. So I went back the following day, screwed up the continuity in a huge way because I was wearing two different outfits, but I did go back and refilm it because it was important to do so. And also Gary saying, do we have any new sponsors coming on board soon, or are we in talks with anyone? I can tell you, I was actually speaking to, I spoke to one last week, but I actually spoke to one from Canada last night, about 6 o'clock our time last night, who is making all the right noises. Watch this space. We are working on it very hard. Dan Cullen is leaving. I can tell you, Dan, you didn't win the Mystery Machine today. I'll get to that in just a moment. Let's have a look. What have we got? Jim Turner reckons it could be a Lieb here. Let me add it to the stage. There we are. Dan Cullen got close with the ZW220 from Hitachi. Gary Muirhead went for a Michigan 55B. It's not. Chris Ford went for the New Holland W190D. And then we had a flurry of activity on Hitachi, which all got closer and closer and closer until Chris Ford said that. And he's absolutely on the money. It is indeed a ZW310 from the fine folks at Hitachi. And I can prove it to you. There you are. That's how I made it look. That's how it's supposed to look. Chris Ford, you've got your 3 points. Your first 3 points of the month, actually. There were a few other guesses as well. Steve Williamson reckons it could have been a Komatsu. The mini long reach demolition machine was smart on the Case stand. Yes, it was. There were some very nice machines on the Case stand, I have to say. Still finding them very, very hard work to deal with. Very hard work to deal with. Such is life. Thankfully, they are balanced out by others. And Steffi over on Instagram just said hi. Hi, Steffi. I don't know if you're male or female, but good morning to you. Assuming it's morning where you are. Right, okay, that's about it for the main part of this morning show. I am going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. But yeah, if you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very, very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, stick around because I don't want to put anyone off, but I'm going to be kind of talking politics, sort of, afterwards. Ever since I returned to the Substack platform as a home for my long-form writing, I found myself increasingly drawn to the subject of US politics, not just as a spectator, but as a student of dysfunction. It's not the drama or the spectacle that grabs my attention. It's the patterns, the eerie, creeping sense of deja vu. Now, for the uninitiated, Substack has become a lifeline for independent voices, particularly in the US, where some of the best journalism now lives beyond the reach of corporate media. Their voices, unfiltered and unbought, are exposing the machinery behind the Trump administration, the lies, the cronyism, and the almost theatrical incompetence. And every time I read a new expose about backroom deals, policy made on whims, or leadership decisions based on ego or petty cruelty rather than expertise, a strange thing happens. I don't just think, well, that sounds awful. I think, that sounds familiar. Because while we may like to believe that such chaos is a uniquely American disease, the symptoms are starting to appear here too, in boardrooms, in industry bodies, and on demolition and construction sites. The UK demolition and construction industry might not have a Trump figurehead, but the same reckless disregard for experience, ethics, and equity is becoming impossible to ignore. Take Elon Musk, a visionary, maybe, but also a man whose wealth and notoriety now substitute for real-world governance experience. He's made himself indispensable to Trump's economic and technological agenda, not through merit, but through proximity to power and a social media following that makes headlines. Sound familiar? How many construction and demolition projects are now managed by those who have never worn a hard hat in anger? How many CEOs have built their empires not on bricks and mortar, but on inherited credibility? Men who wouldn't last 5 minutes on site now making decisions that determine the future of an industry that they barely understand. The idea of accountability is almost quaint now. In the Trump administration, a scandal that would have ended careers a decade ago now barely trends on Twitter. And in our industry, when the Competition and Markets Authority uncovered price fixing and collusion, what happened? A slap on the wrist? A few red faces? Business as usual. We talk a good game about safety, transparency, and fairness. But who really pays when things go wrong? It's rarely the executives or board members. It's the worker who loses his job, the small contractor squeezed out of a bid, the specialist contractor paying the price for a larger company's greed and financial mismanagement, the young apprentice who sees corruption and thinks, what's the point of playing fair? Let's talk about gender and representation. Look at the Trump cabinet and what do you notice? Aside from the fact that they all look like haunted ventriloquist dummies. Yep, they're all white and they're all male. Trump women are either sent in to deliver the bad news, clean up after the bros have done their worst, or they're there purely as cheerleaders. Sound familiar? Construction awards where all the winners are white men in suits. Site leadership teams that might include one woman, but she's usually in HR or marketing. Companies that trot out the single female excavator operator for every PR photo shoot, as if she represents systemic change rather than strategic optics. Just yesterday, we reported on this. The Construction Industry Training Board has confirmed it is sitting on a £95 million cash nest egg, even while the industry skill shortage grows deeper by the day. Surely that bears more than a passing resemblance to the US policy of enriching billionaires while removing basic health cover for those that need it most. Trump screams fake news at anything that contradicts his narrow worldview. He's built an echo chamber so tightly sealed the truth can't get in. The demolition industry isn't quite that blatant, but it's not far off. Raise concerns about embodied carbon and you'll be called an environmental extremist. Question the ethics of a major contractor, and suddenly you're anti-industry. Report on proven corruption, and you find yourself cut off from press releases and blocked from industry events. We pride ourselves on being tough, straight talking, blue collar. But the second someone asks uncomfortable questions, the industry becomes as sensitive as an exposed nerve and as secretive as a politician's press office. The most dangerous thing about what's happening in US politics isn't the chaos itself. It's how quickly people have become used to it, numb to it. It's the acceptance of the inadequate, the validation of venality, the normalization of nonsense. And the same applies here. If we keep tolerating mediocrity at the top, we shouldn't be surprised when good people walk away. The skilled, the principled, the ones with real passion and purpose, they won't stick around forever. They'll go where they're respected, where competence matters more than connections. In the US, that might mean citizens emigrating or hopping across the border into the hospitality and relative sanity of Canada. In demolition and construction, it might mean a continuation of the exodus out of the industry and into alternative sectors. Now, it used to be said that if America sneezes, the UK catches cold. These days, if America sneezes, the UK demolition and construction industry takes notes and adds that latest sneeze to its playbook. And maybe that's why I keep going back to Substack, because while the press releases and press briefings sanitize and obscure the truth, on Substack it's possible to say what needs to be said. We can call it what it is. We can call out the corruption, the elitism, and the rot. This is not just an American problem. It's an industry problem. And unless we name it, unless we face it, we'll end up building our entire future on the same cracked foundations. There you are. How many other people can have a dig at Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the UK demolition industry in one monologue? It's me. Let's have a look. Stefan Edwards has just asked, are you traveling to the conference in Prague? No, I'm not. Because, cut a long story short, I have been, what is the best way of putting it? Mugged off. I was advertising the event in the deal was I was supposed to be getting an invite, plane ticket, hotel room, and so on. Got neither. So, Stefan, I am not going. Left a bad taste in my mouth. I hope everyone has a great time, but I hope the event itself is a dismal failure. That's a whole other story. Gary Muirhead says, I've been listening to Radio Newcastle this morning, and they were saying Nissan in Sunderland was saying they can't afford to build their cars in the UK. It's too expensive now. Had to happen. Had to happen, unfortunately. That would be a very, very sad day if that is the case. Because they are, I realise it's always been stretching the point to call them a British manufacturer, but they do make cars in Britain. And, to see them go would be a terrible, terrible thing. Gary Muirhead also says, Nissan also said they pay the highest rate for their electric, the UK, than any other factory in the world, and it will be a loss of another 6,000 employees. Wow. I'm not going to put it on the screen because, frankly, I'm done with it. No, I can't take an apology to the person that is trying to apologise. Put it right, I'll take it. But no, I can't take an apology. So yes, going back to the monologue. Going back to the morning monologue. Where it hits me the most is that fake news thing. When I first started talking about the CMA investigation, there were some in demolition circles who said that I'd made it up. I mean, literally invented it, made it up, and I was doing it to increase views on my website and stuff. Like I need to do that. Turns out I was right. Turns out I was absolutely right. In fact, if anything, I was slightly wide of the mark because I didn't realize quite how broad and how deep it would be. I didn't realize the magnitude of the fines that would follow. But I as I say, I was told that I was wrong Turns out I was right. Embodied carbon. I started a podcast called Demolition's Biggest Threat, maybe 3 years ago, possibly even more than that. And at the time, I was very concerned about the fact that there was a growing lobby of environmentalists who were pointing to embodied carbon and saying we can't demolish, we need to stop demolition, and we need to do retrofit and refurbs and stuff like that. And again, I was told, he's making it up. That Mark Antony, he's a rabble rouser and a troublemaker. It'll come to nothing. And then you see major demolition contracts kicked to the curb, some only temporarily. For example, the Marks and Spencer store in Regent Street, but a good many others that have been kicked to the curb, and they will not be coming back. They will not be coming back. It's had a major impact on demolition workloads. But as a result of those two incidents and probably many more besides, I am now a persona non grata. I've been basically ostracized. I don't receive press releases. I don't receive responses. As an example, I live my life in public as far as this old nonsense is concerned. About a week after the NFTC appointed a new president, I was sent a photograph of the new president and a press release, which I haven't run because, frankly, don't care. But I used that opportunity. I actually went back and said, look, you're sending me this. What does the new president, he's only been in office for a week. What does he make of the fact that a major developer, an 11 billion pound developer, is going to be looking to recoup some of the money that it claims it was overcharged as part of the CMA investigation? Where are we now? That was a week and a half ago. No response. No response whatsoever. Yeah. The odd thing with it is, because I look at LinkedIn on a fairly regular basis, I can tell you that the person that is handling the marketing for the National Federation of Demolition Contractors is all over my LinkedIn page like a bad rash, but no communication with them because my views do not align with theirs, and they've decided they're going to shut up shop. It's the whole fake news thing again. Now, I'm not putting myself on the same pedestal as some of the American media. That's certainly not the case. But I don't know if you saw overnight, I think he was like the editor-in-chief of 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes is like the BBC equivalent of Newsnight. It's been going for decades, and it is the ultimate arbiter of news. Obviously, we have CNN and NBC and MSNBC, and we have all of the news channels. But it is a bit like, as I say, it's a bit like Panorama or something like that, where they actually go into in depth into a particular story. It's called 60 Minutes. The editor-in-chief of 60 Minutes has basically stepped down because he was being leaned on to not publish or broadcast a story, which, the Trump administration had decided was not in line with their beliefs. And rather than bend the knee, which is now what we call it, he quit. I don't know how long 60 Minutes has been going, but it is 40, 50 years old. They've only ever had 3 editors-in-chief. It is, it's kind of like the pinnacle. Yeah. It's the pinnacle of American journalism. And the guy, rather than bowing to a pressure from the Trump administration, he's quit. The problem you've got with, certainly in press terms, is that they don't stand up for each other. Now I'm not for one moment expecting any of my rival magazines, websites, or anything to stand up and say, yeah, you're not inviting that Mark Antony bloke. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I probably wouldn't go to some of these things anyway. But by the grace of God. So, I've stepped out of line, presumably, and now I am ostracized. Chances are, if somebody else steps out of line, they will be ostracized too. And there's subtle ways of influencing the narrative as well. For example, and I don't know if this is still the case, but for many, many years, the National Federation of Demolition Contractors was one of the sponsors of the Construction News Specialist Awards. One of the key reasons they were a sponsor was because they wanted a place on the judging panel so that they could ensure that anybody that ever won the demolition award or the demolition category at the Construction News Specialist Awards was an NFDC member. They basically paid to ensure that no non-NFDC member ever won the prize, which, to my mind, immediately calls into question the credibility of the prize in the first place, because there are a good many demolition contractors out there who are every bit as good as those that are within the NFDC. Let's have a look. The trouble with poorly managed governments, we are stuck with them unless we up sticks and emigrate. I'd gladly sell up and piss off to New Zealand, but the missus won't go. Do you know one of the things I find, and again, I'm not daft enough to believe that this is some kind of major trend, but one of the things that I have noticed of late is, again, via Substack, via LinkedIn, via Instagram, the number of American citizens that are moving to Europe. I was reading about a couple yesterday, not a couple, but two different people have both moved to France. I was reading about another one that's moved to Portugal. Now, again, I'm very well aware of the fact that I view certain things online and that will skew the algorithm to show me more of that kind of thing. So, and I'm not saying I'm anti-American. I'm certainly not. I'll come back to that in just a moment. But I think having looked at some of the, maybe the left-leaning or the centrist viewpoints, maybe I'm being fed that. But yeah, there is something of a brain drain. Here's another thing that has got me thinking as well. I am due to be in America in March next year for the ConExpo exhibition. Bearing in mind the monologue that I've just delivered, which will exist in written form on Substack and on LinkedIn, am I okay going to America? If border control, they are acting on behalf of the government. Are they, by the time March rolls around next time, are they going to be checking mobile phones for past history? Are they going to be analysing your content for what might be perceived as anti-American or anti-Trump vitriol? In which case, will I be turned around and sent back? Don't know. I actually don't know the answer to that. I mean, I don't think somebody writing about demolition and construction for a living is going to be a huge threat to American democracy. Certainly not as big a threat as the guy that sat in the White House at the moment. But how far do they go? If they're talking about the removal of licenses for those media outlets that they don't think align with their own personal views, that's quite an undertaking. To turn around a guy at the border, a Brit who they don't like the look of, turn him around and send him back the way he came, that's not hard. They could do that very easily. Gary Muirhead says the USA will have you on their list as Mark Antony is high risk. I may not wear the T-shirt. Do you exactly know what the demolition industry in the UK state of affairs are like right now? Is their contract still awarded, or is the industry struggling with a downturn in work? It's, from all that I'm hearing, it's pretty tough out there. I mean, there, as always with the UK demolition industry, it seems to be a bit of a regional mishmash. So London, I mean, even during 2008, 2009, when the arse absolutely fell out of the market, there was still work being awarded. There was still work being done in London. If you were down in Cornwall, you were probably twiddling your thumbs. If you were in Newcastle, chances are you were doing likewise, and so on. I think that's the case at the moment. But I'm speaking to a lot of people that are not renewing the equipment with quite the regularity that they were. There is work out there, but I think it's a bit of a buyer's market at the moment. there will always be somebody out there that will be willing to take on a job for little or no profit, in fact, at a loss, just to keep the wheels turning. And while that continues, I guess the hard times will continue. But I'm not hearing much in the way of positivity. I wouldn't say anyone's in fear of their livelihoods right now. I mean, obviously there is a fair old churn of workers. I'm not hearing much in the way of companies in dire financial straits, no more than I would normally hear. But in terms of workload, yeah, I do think it is very much a regional beast. I think if you're in London and the southeast, possibly in Birmingham, you're probably okay. Go a bit further afield, maybe not so much. Never trust recognition that only recognise their own people, especially a group you have to pay into to join. Cream rises to the top naturally. That's the beauty of sports that just requires skill and dedication. Yeah. And again, I mean, that's why I always found that quite uncomfortable, this idea of paying to be part of the judging committee on an awards to ensure that one of your lot won the award. It's like the Moscow Olympics. If anyone's old enough to remember, the 1980 Moscow Olympics, the Americans boycotted it. And obviously the games went ahead and there were people winning gold and silver and bronze medals in athletics, in field events, in boxing and rowing and Christ knows what else. Surely those medals are cheapened by the fact that probably the biggest competitor in those various fields didn't even bother to turn up. Can you honestly claim to be the best in the world if you only beat those that turned up? It's the American World Series of Baseball. I know nothing about baseball, but would the Boston Red Sox, I think that's a team, would they be the World Series champions if they let the Mexicans in, or the Japanese in, or the Cubans in? I don't know, because I know nothing about baseball. But you can't really call it a baseball World Series if the only country taking part is America. Much the same as awards for demolition. And the demolition industry does it itself. The NFDC gives out awards for the best apprentice and I don't know, various other bits and pieces. Absolutely fine, and I'm sure that the young person that tends to walk away with the apprentice award feels pretty damn good about themselves, and good luck to them. I hope that sets them up for a lifetime of employment. I hope it really raises their game and everything else. But you're not the best demolition apprentice in the country. You're best out of the 140 that were invited to take part, and in actual fact, you're probably the best out of the 15 that chose to enter. It's not the same, is it? Listen, I'm not bigging myself up here by any means, but when I was 16, I entered a national fishing competition at my dad's request, because he did that sort of thing as an adult. And I fished a couple of matches, and I was 6th in the UK. Wouldn't have even made the podium in the Olympics, but I was 6th in the UK. But I didn't just compete against Dave and Steve down at my local pond. I competed against the best in the country, at multiple different events. And I ended up 6th. I was quite proud of that. 6 out of thousands. Yeah, not bad. First out of 14. It's not quite the same, is it? And I don't want to make this just about the media side of things. When you think about, obviously, the Americans are currently going through the machinations with this, what is he, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who up until not so long ago was a radio show host. Just the sort of person you want in charge of your armed forces, I would imagine. Not once, but twice, he has leaked war plans on an unsecured social media platform. Now, if you were a person in the trenches, and I'm maybe trenches is the wrong word to use, but if you were a military officer or a member of the military personnel, you're a private do they have privates in the American Army? Whatever they have, squaddies. Do they have squaddies? I don't know. But whatever they are, If you had released that information at that level, you would have been court-martialed. No question about it. And you would have been kicked out of the army or the Navy or the Air Force. You'd have been kicked out and you'd have been court-martialed. Him? No, not a problem. Not a problem. Now, in every likelihood, Donald Trump might actually get rid because it's one of those things that's dragging on. But you would also thought that is the kind of thing that if you had any honor, honesty, nobility about you, you would fall on your sword having made such an almighty fuck up. Nope, not now. Chris Ford says they're called grunts. They are called grunts. I remember seeing that. I'm sure that's not the official term, but yeah. But yeah, you would have fallen on your sword, but not anymore. And think about that from the CMA point of view. It was only when the fines were handed down that people started to take a step back from public profiles. You would have thought, and I do know of one that did actually fall on his sword and take a big step backwards. I find that admirable, despite the circumstances. But everybody else waited until they were told. And then, rolling that analogy even further forward, Pete Hegseth has cocked up twice, and his boss has done nothing about it. No sanctions, no reprimands, no nothing. CMA. Cocked up, got caught, hand in the till, NFDC, nothing. It's the same thing. And then the other one that it was perfectly timely, but let's face it, it's always timely with the CITB. CITB announcing that it sat on a nest egg of 95 million quid at the same time as there's a skill shortage. Now, I'm not for one moment suggesting that you go and throw 95 million quid up the wall, hope it sticks, hope it fixes the skill shortage. I'm not suggesting that for one moment. But you would have thought that the main idea of actually having that money would be to reinvest it to fix the very problem that you're there to fix. I've been trying to think of an analogy, and I can't think of a good one. So let's take a retail company. Let's say that Sainsbury's prides itself on selling baked beans. I'm sure they do. They pride themselves on selling baked beans. And then there's a bit of a shortage of baked beans. It's quite bad. People can't have their beans on toast or their full English with the side of beans. And there is a national bean shortage. At which point Sainsbury's comes out and says, "Oh well, there is a bean shortage, and we're working hard to fix it. But gaze upon our stock of beans. We have many beans. Realize you don't, but we have many beans." It's the same thing. We've got a skill shortage, and the people that are there to fix the skill shortage, rather than fixing it, they're counting their money. How does that make any sense at all? And the CITB is not unique. The National Federation or the National Demolition Training Group is also sat on a big pile of cash. To what end? What is the point of having money in the bank when you've not got enough staff or not got enough people actually going through and getting their competence cards and everything else? Makes no sense. Dan Cullen says, "Bloody weather, cold and wet here." Yeah, it's my eldest son phoned me last night and said, "Do you fancy a round of golf this afternoon?" I said, "Yeah, why not? Why not?" Hasn't stopped raining since I agreed to that. Don't think that's going to be happening. Oh no, they won't invest. They want to make millions and spend pennies. Claim to be the best. Yeah, that's exactly the way it is. That's exactly the way it is. And I mean, I've given up even trying with the CITB. Once in every 3 years, we do this. What do they call it? The census. Go out to the industry. Is the CITB fit for purpose? And we all say, no, it's not. They're terrible, 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 terrible. Oh yeah, give them another 3 years. How do you go about doing that when they're sat on this huge war chest of cash while the skill shortage grows worse by the day. I don't understand it. Don't understand it. Dan Carter says, I need to get a cap like that. Can you speak to Alu for me? I will have a word. What I would say is there is a reason that this looks like this. Finnish, which is because Alu are Finnish, and American. Can you see that? There is an American flag there somewhere. It was for ConExpo. I don't suppose these are commonplace hats at all. But let me have a word, see what I can do. Anyway, people, that should just about do us. We've been rabbiting away for more than an hour. Probably get myself banned from America forever. Do you know, here's another thing, just very, very quickly. I've always hankered after trips to America. First time I went to America, I was paid to be there. And I couldn't believe somebody was paying me to go to a place that I'd only seen in movies and TV shows. And I've been back. I've probably been to the States 20, 30 times over the years. I lost count, to be perfectly honest. I got very picky, particularly now I do this for a living. If somebody says, do you fancy a trip to France? Yeah, depends what it is. Somebody says, do you fancy a trip to Germany? Yeah, depends what it is. Italy, I get a bit more excited about because I love Italy. But by and large, I can take or leave travel. But if somebody says to me, America, up until now, I've gone, yeah, I don't care what it is. Put me down, put my name down. I'm all about America. This is the first time, and it's still just under a year away. ConExpo is coming up. I'm not absolutely sure I fancy it. Work will almost certainly require me to go. And I'm sure when I get there, I'll have a fine old time because Americans on the street are a fine bunch of people. So long as you don't mention politics to some of them, they're a great bunch of people. And I thoroughly enjoy their company. I enjoy spending time with them. But it doesn't feel as inviting as it once did. It really doesn't. Maybe I'm being overly sensitive. I don't know. Let's have a look. Jim Turner says 95 million could pop up CITB training test centres in every UK county for 16 to 28-year-olds to get their tickets. Yeah, could. Or it could sit there and earn interest for the CITB. I personally, I think Jim's idea makes a lot more sense if you're actually addressing a skill shortage. You know, if you are the CEO of the CITB, is it more important to show a reducing level of skill shortage, or is it more important to show a rise in profits? I actually don't know the answer to that. I know the answer to it from a moral standpoint. I don't actually know the answer to that from a corporate standpoint. But yeah. Let's have a look. Stay safe. Tell those closest to you that you love them. I certainly will. And yeah, never know if you may not return. Yeah. I'm despite everything that I've just said, I'd love to go to ConExpo. Love Las Vegas. Love hanging out there. Love meeting the people and everything else. But you know, if I say the wrong thing, or if somebody does delve a bit deeper into my online background, do I end up going to El Salvador? And I'm only half joking when I say that. Yeah. There's a little thing to consider. Anyway, people, that will do us for today. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, so we've got 2 more shows this week. Back tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. I'm sure I will think of something. Just one other thing. I don't know why this always comes to me while I'm trying to say goodbye. I've been toying with the idea. Yesterday's story about the imaginary girl trying to make her way in the demolition industry did actually strike a nerve. I've had some very positive feedback from the likes of Australia, from Canada, from America. God bless America. Had lots of positive feedback on that. And I've actually been thinking about the idea of creating a fictional demolition or construction worker, basically as a framework upon which to hang the issues of the day. So rather than having to report on somebody that was poorly treated in some way, I can actually take that story and apply it to my imaginary person. Looking for a name. If anybody's got a name for a very Joe average demolition or construction worker, please let me know. I only need a first name. Just want something to hang it on. I'm just one final thing before I go, which just goes to show that we are living in a madhouse. I'm probably not alone in seeing this. There was a post on LinkedIn, excuse me, day before yesterday, I think it was. A guy in this industry had gone for a health and safety test check thing. And at the end of it, he was sat down with the adjudicator or whoever it was, and they said, tell me, do you do drugs? And he said, no. I mean, this guy's probably my age. No, I don't. Are you sure you don't do drugs? I'm positive. I would know. I definitely remember if I do drugs. Are you absolutely 100% sure that you don't do drugs? I can confirm I do not do drugs. And they said, well, then can you explain the white powder under your nose? And he said, yes, I can explain the white powder under my nose. I ate a bag of jelly babies on my way here. Yeah. Random drug testing is now picking up jelly baby addiction. On that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a fantastic day, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow for more of the same. Till then, have a good one. All the best.